The following sections will discuss engine components and their locations. Let's take a brief look at some of the fuel system components and their locations. A manual priming feature for the suction side fuel filter is required. Cummins supplied suction side fuel filter assemblies include an integral manual lift pump. Quick disconnect low-pressure fuel line connectors are used at several locations on the low-pressure side of the fuel system. A suction side fuel filter is required and is to be mounted by the OEM between the fuel tank and the engine fuel pump inlet fitting. An off-engine mounted suction side fuel filter option is available from Cummins. The suction side fuel filter includes water separator and water and fuel whiff sensor. The whiff sensor is required and communicates with the engine control module, ECM, through the engine harness and will log a fault code if the whiff sensor is not connected. Optional 12-volt and 24-volt fuel heaters with integral thermostatic control are available and will be located in the suction side fuel filter assembly. The fuel pump gear pump is located on the high-pressure fuel pump assembly. The fuel pump gear pump provides pressure to the pressure side fuel filter before going to the high-pressure pump. The pressure side fuel filter is mounted on the pressure side of the fuel pump gear pump on the intake side of the engine. This is a cartridge-style fuel filter with 5-micron media. Proper torque must be applied during filter installation, using a socket over the molded nut feature located at the bottom of the filter shell. The high-pressure fuel pump is found on the intake side of the engine, mounted to the rear gear housing. The assembly contains a fuel pump gear pump, high-pressure pumping components, and a fuel pump actuator valve. A fuel pump actuator mounted on the high-pressure fuel pump at the inlet to the 3 radial pumping chambers regulates the volume of fuel that is allowed to enter the pumping chambers. The high-pressure common rail is mounted to the intake side of the engine, next to the air intake connection. The high-pressure relief valve is mounted in the high-pressure fuel rail and protects the fuel system from pressure spikes. The high-pressure fuel lines connect the fuel rail to the individual head-mounted fuel connectors. Head-mounted fuel connectors are installed in the cylinder head. The head-mounted fuel connectors transfer fuel from the high-pressure supply lines to the individual fuel injectors. The fuel injectors are controlled individually by the ECM. Each injector is supplied pressurized fuel by the high-pressure common rail. An all-in-one drain line from the fuel rail, the injector drain, and the fuel pump drain is used on this engine to collect excess fuel and return it to the fuel supply tank.